We see the save switch into Feraligatr and immediately hard punished by the silly electric fish. Ruffian Romeo farms up, fires off the crunch lands. For decent neutral damage, we get the defense drop, the opponent farming up, getting greedy, playing to the CMP side. They do not win. The opponent now going to be forced to invest a Protect Shield, which they're not willing to do. And just like that, Ruffian Romeo will be taking back switch advantage. Welcome back to the home of Shadow Pokemon. Today, we have got a Team Rocket takeover, Go Battle League style, from fellow content creator Ruffian Romeo, who is going to be linked down below. Ruffian Romeo is aiming to reach Legend, exclusively using Shadow Dragonite all season long, and today, he is putting on a clinic, going a very dominant 15-0. Not only is Ruffian Romeo using a full Shadow team, we're also using a triple non-XL team. There's no XL abuse in sight, just the destructive power of Shadow Pokemon. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, we see some Shadow on Shadow crime. This is the battle of resisted damage, but both these Pokemon hit like a truck and do not give a crap about typings. Romeo farms up, fires off the Frenzy Plant, which is supposed to be resisted, but the opponent near gets one shot. Romeo knows he survives even a wild charge. We see the instant no shield deployed. The opponent not wanting to get farmed down. Send out Kingdra. And Ruffian Romeo said to me, don't mind this sludge bomb. I panicked through, assuming they wouldn't switch into something that would want to tank a Frenzy Plant, but undeterred, he sends out Dragonite, gets the Dragon Breath farm down. You can already see why I love using Shadow Pokemon, as 2 Pokemon have already been deleted. The opponent sends out their third, which is Dragalge, and Dragonite will be forcing the first Protect Shield with the Dragon Claw. Can Dragonite make the second move? Unfortunately, we can't. However, we've now got a 2-1 shield advantage, and it is Gator time. If the opponent farms to 7, I imagine we're going to see the Protect Shield deployed on the potential Outrage. The opponent lightly bait, but there's no real reason to call this. The opponent does Master Bait, but no amount of Master Baiting will be saving this opponent. They very quickly found themselves in Hydro Cannon range. The first Hydro Cannon forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. The opponent doesn't even build back up to the Outrage. We see Ruffian Romeo putting the stamp of authority on the battle, going for the 1 shield flex. We tank the Aqua Tail, fire off the Hydro Cannon, securing the knockout. Back out comes Magnezone, and we're going to Shadow Claw farm down and take that game. Heading into the next battle. Venusaur, pretty dreadful into a Abomasnow. Feraligatr, not fantastic, and Dragonite, even worse. We save switch into Gator, and we're immediately hard punished by the silly electric fish. At a first glance, this looks dreadful. However, it's actually give Romeo a very nice opportunity to come in, farm down this Lantern, leave with as much energy as he physically can. That's exactly why he didn't throw a charge move there. There's no point in taking out this Lantern, because we're just going to give a Abomasnow farm. Instead, he opts to go down with a whole heap of energy, sends in Venusaur, gets a massive running start, and now that dreadful matchup isn't all that bad, as Abomasnow definitely will not fancy tanking a Shadow Sludge Bomb. Romeo farms up to the Sludge Bomb baits with the Frenzy Plant, forcing the opponent's first Protect Shield. Dragonite does have that superpower coverage that will hit for heavy super effective damage, but we're going to be double weak to Ice. We see Romeo invest a Protect Shield on the Icy Wind, return fire with Sludge Bomb number 2, which the opponent actually catches onto Mandibars. A very nice play from the opponent. Romeo now sends in Dragonite with 1 Protect Shield, 2 hard behind. Romeo gonna shield up the incoming foul play. Ruffian Romeo's energy management is about to be put to the test. He overfarms as much as he physically can, fires off the Dragon Claw. We really need this to be lethal, or the opponent will get off another move. Oof, it doesn't quite knock out, but the opponent doesn't get off the charge move. Back out comes Abomasnow. We fire off the Dragon Claw bait. Ruffian Romeo is the best Master Baiter in the world. We're able to survive the double super effective Powder Snows, reach the superpower, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Romeo, you almost give me an anxiety attack there, but you handled that core breaker very, very nicely. In the next battle, we see Dragalge in the lead. We see their pivot into Feraligatr. It looks like the opponent has no immediate response. They're going for the very obvious Aqua Tail, which is likely to chip and dip. They fire off the Aqua Tail. The opponent continues to stay in, so Romeo is going to fire off the Hydro Cannon. The Hydro Cannon might be resisted, but it pretty much does around the same damage as Crunch. Romeo then fires off 1 Shadow Claw and the next Hydro Cannon, ensuring he throws at correct fast move time. It's using a 2-turn move, such as Shadow Claw, into a 3-turn move, like Dragon Tail. You always want to throw out 1 quick move at 4 or 7. We managed to gain ourselves early shield advantage. However, we most certainly don't have switch. We now send back in Venusaur. The opponent farming up to a potential outrage. They actually farm up, attempt to make a Frenzy Plant catch onto the annoying Vulture, but Romeo shows great discipline, holds his energy, and sludge bombs this annoying Vulture to the face. We then pivot into Dragonite. Dragonite insanely glassy. Romeo going to shield up the incoming aerial ace. Shadow Dragonite usually very oppressive in neutral situations, but Mandibuzz is tanking these Dragon Breaths really well. Romeo farms up, throws a Dragon Claw on the CMP tie. Despite this Vulture being in the red, they're able to withstand the damage, and Romeo is now forced to burn his final shield. Dragonite does leave with residual energy, but no Protect Shields too hard behind. The opponent sends out Empoleon. Romeo once again going for a risky master baiting session. The bait does pay off. We force the opponent's final Protect Shield. Now looks to pivot into Venusaur, sacrificing it to the Poke Gods. I have no idea why the opponent opted to throw the Hydro Cannon rather than the Drill Peck, but we're just going to take it. The opponent fires off the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail secures the knockout. Dragonite gets the Dragon Breath farm down. We leave with the Super Power. Is this enough to knock out? Who was worried? And Romeo takes the dub. Heading into the next battle, we lead Shadow Venusaur into Sonic the Hedgehog. Holy crap, I thought a Bomber Snow was bad. At least that would take neutral from Dragon Breath. The opponent switches into Goodra. Romeo says, thank you very much, we'll take that. We're going to fire off the Hydro Cannon after baiting the potential Ice Beam, and we've now gained ourselves early shield advantage. Romeo going to shield up the incoming Power Whip, looking to make a play at taking switch again. We're going to farm up, looking to bait the Ice Beam, and again fire off the Hydro Cannon. This is a prime example of faking it till you make it, and the opponent craps their pants, putting up their final Protect Shield. So what I mean about fake it till you make it is even if you aren't running the charge move that would hit the opponent for super effective, which is Ice Beam in this case, you should always farm up to it, which would be 7 Shadow Claws, at least putting some shield pressure on the opponent. We now send in Venusaur. Venusaur is going to be able to tank anything in this Goodra's arsenal, and we're going to get a huge resisted Vine Whip farm down. Now if Sandslash does want to return, we've got so much energy to throw at them. All our charge moves are resisted, but Venusaur doesn't care about typings. It hits so hard. As Ruffian Romeo was able to get a huge farm down, we're able to outpace the Frenzy Plant number 2, and this top threat to our team has already found itself very deeply into the red. The opponent pivots out into their third, which is Dragalge, but Dragalge going to be straight in and straight out. Get that Dragalge out of here, back out, come Sandslash. The opponent's going to be forced to throw. Romeo just going to save his Protect Shield for Venusaur. Venusaur's going to be able to withstand the Shadow Claw damage, shield this Ice Punch up, reach the Frenzy Plant, and Romeo somehow is going to beat another Core Breaker. GG's, and thanks for playing. ABA weak to Ice, and we've managed to beat back-to-back Ice types in the lead. Let's go. Heading into their next battle, we lead Shadow Venusaur into Feraligatr. Finally Venusaur wins the lead, although the opponent could have a potential Ice Beam. The Venusaur Ruffian Romeo is actually using is very attack weighted, and he's deliberately built that because this CMP tie is IV dependent. So obviously Ice Beam takes 7. So if the opponent was to bait a Hydro Cannon, they'd be able to reach the Ice Beam on the CMP tie in the 1 shield. So Romeo has considered that, building a very attack weighted Venusaur. However, what he's done in this matchup is attempt to catch a charge move onto Feraligatr unsuccessfully, and once again drawn out this very annoying silly electric fish. I really wish this thing would just piss off back to the Great League. Romeo's going to send back out Venusaur. We're going to Vine Whip this silly electric fish all the way down, and we're going to leave with back-to-back Frenzy Plants. Hopefully the opponent brings out Feraligatr, assuming they win CMP, and we can knock it out. The opponent not wanting to play to the CMP, send out their third, which is Greedent. The first Frenzy Plant lands for massive damage. Romeo farms up, attempts to throw on the CMP tie, but the opponent not willing to play to CMP. We force the final shield. The opponent then gets greedy, trying to Mudshot farm down. Venusaur says no, reaches the next Frenzy Plant. We're then going to pivot out into Dragonite, and this is just game over. I've got no idea why the opponent's throwing a charge move. We've got 2 Protect Shields. Trainer just top left. Thank you very much, and GG's to you, good sir. Heading into the next battle, we see Ruffian Romeo lead into his favourite Pokemon, the Pokemon he's trying to reach Legend with. Not fantastic for Venusaur, so we see the instant pivot into Feraligatr, and he goes straight for the Hydro Cannon. I like this play a lot, as I think the opponent might look to try and catch an Ice Beam onto something that does resist Ice. Speaking of which, as I called, the opponent does make the catch, but this time of the second Hydro Cannon onto Poliwrath. The opponent is going to get a very nice counter farm down, although we've now got this thing out. Venusaur doesn't really care about a non-stab Icy Wind, unlike Dragonite. This is only super effective, not double super effective. You can see Venusaur can easily survive 1, and we're not in danger of getting counter farm down. Romeo over farms, fires off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant secures the knockout. It's interesting Romeo isn't spamming the switch. I personally would be, but it looks like Romeo's just looking to deplete this Dragonite of some of its energy. Back out comes Dragonite. The opponent throws immediately. They're not doubled up on charge moves. We send out our own Dragonite. The opponent pivots out into Shadow Feraligatr, Romeo, with a 2-1 shield advantage. The opponent also going for the obvious Hydro Cannon, but we need to save health. We shield up the Hydro Cannon, Romeo. Going to return fire with the Dragon Claw. We go for an undercharge in case the opponent doesn't opt to shield. However, they do invest that Protect Shield. Romeo can now just shield up this next move. Dragon Breath Farm all the way down. And Dragon Claw, the opposing Dragonite for the dub. I believe they're actually 2 Dragon Breath short of the move. But even if they got it banked, Romeo is using an 11 attack Dragonite. That actually looks like CMP. So luckily, we've got the attack weighted Dragonite and Romeo is able to take the dub. Heading into the next battle. We see yet another Dragalge in the lead. Shout out PokeAK. I saw him make a Dragalge video and it looks like a lot of people are copying what Big Poke's doing. The opponent attempts to catch an Ice Beam onto Poliwrath. Romeo holds his energy and going to start firing off these Hydro Cannons. Of course, they are resisted, but they come thick and fast. Romeo fires off the next Hydro Cannon on the CMP tie, depleting Poliwrath of its energy. Hydro Cannon gets the opponent into the red. The opponent's going to need to full send a Skull to secure the knockout. The opponent does make the correct play. We can now send in Venusaur. Venusaur going to be able to get the full Vine Whip farm down. Unfortunately, both our charge moves are going to be heavily resisted into Dragalge. Both Dragon and Poison resist Grass, whereas Dragon takes neutral from Poison and Poison resists itself. So we are going to have to go for the Sludge Bomb, which of course isn't anywhere near a good a move as the busted Frenzy Plant. The opponent full sends an Outrage, securing the knockout. We then send out Dragonite. Dragonite gets the Dragon Breath farm down. And it's Skeledirge in the back. Shadow Dragonite, insanely glassy, and its bulk's about to be put to the test. As Romeo has 2 Protect Shields, if I was the opponent, I wouldn't be throwing anything. I'd just be looking for the resisted Incinerate farm down. Whereas on the other hand, Romeo definitely can't Dragon Breath farm down. He needs to throw. Romeo heading towards the back-to-back Dragon Claws. The first one, I was going to say forces the Protect Shield, but the opponent looks to tank it, and we just about get the Dragon Breath farm down and take that game. Next up, we see Venusaur into Empoleon. This used to be quite dominant for Venusaur, however, now with Steel Wing, Empoleon's pretty good into Venusaur. The opponent safe switches into Skeledirge, and we immediately answer with the Gator. Gator farms up, goes straight for the Hydro Cannon, forcing us early shield advantage. Even a Shadow Ball won't be lethal. I'd be inclined to no shield. Romeo looks to do the same. The opponent throws the Disarming Voice, and that is going to allow us to make Hydro Cannon number 2. Surely they don't double shield. Oof, I really don't agree with that play from the opponent, as Romeo could just let this go down, Dragon Breath farm down, or if we really want switch, we could shield this move up, throw 2 Shadow Claws, and still take switch and get shield advantage in the mid game. I think the opponent has played that horribly, but it is what it is. Back out comes Empoleon. Empoleon does get the resisted Steel Wing farm down. Romeo going to send back out Venusaur. A non-stab Drill Peck isn't going to be lethal. You can see it does around 55%. Romeo pauses a turn, ensuring the opponent doesn't catch the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant going to land for heavy neutral damage. We then pivot into Dragonite, looking to snipe. The opponent sends out Swampert, and they're going to concede the match. GG's. In the next battle, we see Venusaur into another Dragalge. Ruffian Romeo falling victim of the algorithm. We say switch into Feraligatr, and once again, we're met with this silly electric fish. Romeo farms up, fires off the crunch. We get the defense drop. The opponent, you need to throw, trainer. You need to throw. The opponent gets greedy, plays to the CMP side. They do not win. We reach the next crunch. The opponent unwilling to shield. And just like that, Romeo has been given the opportunity to take back switch. And he says, thank you very much, trainer. I'll be having that. Feraligatr able to flip switch advantage on its head, despite being in a very unfavourable matchup. Romeo only going to reach 1 move. I definitely would have thrown the crunch here, just fishing for the defense drop. We pivot out into Dragonite. The opponent sends out Feraligatr, and we answer with Venusaur. Romeo able to reach the Frenzy Plant on the CMP tie. Them IVs coming in clutch. We see the instant no-shield deployed. Romeo dares the opponent to throw the Ice Beam, and the opponent says, okay, I will. It's now all down to Dragonite. Dragonite going to be able to 1-shield Dragon Breath farm all the way down. Dragalge won't reach an Outrage. So the question is, can we survive the Dragon Tails and Aqua Tail combination? Back out comes Dragalge. We just need to leave healthy enough to survive 1 Dragon Tail, which it looks like we are. Romeo now at the double charge moves. You know the drill. The first one will be forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield, and the second one is going to be all Shiro. And Romeo, despite hard losing lead for about the millionth time in the video, picks up the dub. In the next battle, we see Steelix in the lead. A pretty neutral matchup. Hopefully the opponent's got Breaking Swipe and Earthquake. Although as Breaking Swipe has been nerfed, they're almost certainly going to be on Psychic Fang. Romeo throws on 6, which is alignment. I'm normally very against alignment throwing, but Steelix users are normally the worst alignment throwers ever, or an alignment Andy, as my friend King GBL would say, as they're just looking to get off the debuff as soon as possible. So this is one of the few matchups I don't mind an alignment throw, as if the opponent would have got off the breaking swipe first, got the debuff, then our Frenzy Plant of course would have done less damage. Romeo just completely sacks Venusaur, sends out Feraligatr as he wants to keep his Dragonite far away from this Steel Snake. The opponent going to fire off one further Psychic Fang, forcing a debuff onto our Feraligatr, and they now enter the mirror. Despite having a lowered defense, Romeo happy to stay in, looking to get off some chip damage. The resisted Hydro Cannon does almost half the health. Shadow and Shadow Crime. These Pokemon are quite glassy, even in the Ultra League. The opponent fires off the Hydro Cannon, securing the knockout. We send out Dragonite. Imagine we're going to go for the one shield. Dragon Breath farm down. We're going to have a very nice running start on energy. It really depends what's in the back. The opponent fires off the crunch. Luckily, we don't get a debuff. Steelix is still alive, so we need to be mindful the opponent could potentially make a catch. The opponent sends out Gliscopod. They don't make the catch on the first attempt, so Dragonclaw forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Romeo also going to have to invest his final shield here. We shield up the Aerial Ace. Romeo needs to be mindful of the catch. The opponent attempts to make that catch, giving Dragonite even more farm. That's just going to allow us to double up on Dragonclaws. Well, not quite double up. We're going to outpace before they reach the Aerial Ace. And that is going to be all she wrote, with Dragonite sweeping the back line. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle. Show me something that isn't Dragalge, please. We see Venusaur. Oh, God. This thing's probably even worse. But what a cool shiny. You know, on this channel, we love the Dark Poisons. And that is a very cool shiny flex. Both moves are resisted, but they're only single resisted, so Frenzy Plant is the way to go. And Overquill did not tank that particularly well, because Venusaur hits like a truck. The opponent fires off the Dark Pulse, securing the knockout. I think we're going to have to come into Dragonite here, as we can't resist his Shadow Claw farm down. That's only an Aqua Tail, right? I don't know why the opponent didn't commit to the Dark Pulse. I think they would have made it. It is what it is, but even the Aqua Tail and the Poison Jabs have got us low. The opponent then sends out Jellicent. This looks rough. Romeo farms up, throws the Dragonclaw. Dragonclaw goes unshielded. We're definitely in surf range. Romeo anticipates the opponent throwing at good timing, which allows him to reach the next Dragonclaw. The opponent's still forced to throw, and this is best case scenario. Romeo can just let Dragonite go down and hope Feraligatr, with a 2-to-1 shield advantage, can sweep. We send in Gator. Romeo going to respect the potential Shadow Ball. The opponent full sends. The opponent's going to get farmed down as they're forced to send out their third, which is Annihilape. Feraligatr grinning ear to ear. Hydro Cannon goes unshielded. With an energy lead, the opponent's only going to have one opportunity to throw the nuke, so I'd recommend shielding last second. We do invest at Protect Shield. On the Ice Punch, the opponent still gets Shadow Claw farmed down. Back out comes Jellicent. Romeo throws one Shadow Claw and the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon goes unshielded as the opponent recognises they're going to get outpaced, and we're going to take the dub. GG's. In the next battle, we see another Man of Culture running Shadow Venusaur. We aggressively send out our hard counter, and this is why you do not save switch something with a double weakness, as you potentially are going to get hard punished. The opponent sends out Walrein. We bait with a Dragonclaw, which should at least force the opponent to throw. We've managed to gain ourselves shield advantage in an absolutely dreadful matchup. So whilst I don't agree with save switching Dragonite, it's actually worked out quite well for Ruffy and Romeo. We're now going to send in Feraligatr. I don't really see any reason to bait. We last second correctly shield an Earthquake. Okay, this is going to allow Ruffy and Romeo to heavily overfarm. He farms up to 100 energy before firing off the resisted Hydro Cannon, which does secure the knockout. A Venusaur does return. They could be scared running Ice Beam. Ice Beam is recommended on PV Poke. The opponent didn't fancy playing the bait games, opted to send out their third, which is Empoleon. We greet him with the Crunch. Crunch gets the defense drop. Romeo doesn't even build back up to the Crunch, fires off the resisted Hydro Cannon, which forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Then bank a boatload of energy, attempt to catch a Hydro Cannon back onto Venusaur. Romeo shows cat-like reflexes and enters the mirror. Romeo tanks the Sludge Bomb, saving his Protect Shield. Looking at how much damage that did to us, this Sludge Bomb will be very close to knocking out. Romeo heavily overfarms, fires off the Sludge Bomb, securing the knockout. The opponent looks for the Steel Wing farm down. Venusaur refuses to die, reaches the Frenzy Plant, and once again, we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Shadow Venusaur into Poliwrath. Let's go. I'm surprised how few Poliwraths we've actually seen in this video. The opponent sends out Dragonite, and we respond with our own. Ruffian Romeo calls his Dragonite the opposing Dragonite Slayer, and you can see that as he's got some weird bulk points. So I'm going to post his IVs on all 3 Pokemon down below. Romeo, able to maintain switch advantage, back out comes Poliwrath, and he goes for the correct play of the Superpower. Superpower doesn't get same type attack bonus, but does do slightly more damage. The opponent only got off 1 counter, so Romeo comes in, throws 6 Vine Whips, which is going to be CMP side to the Icy Wind. The opponent still switch locks, so they're going to be forced to burn a Protect Shield. They want to keep Poliwrath around. Romeo knows he tanks an Icy Wind, especially from a non-shadow Poliwrath. We then see the Simul swap of Feraligatr into Steelix. Romeo goes straight for the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon probably forces a shield, as the opponent's going to be looking to debuff the shit out of us. Of course, the opponent does invest that Protect Shield. They're now praying to the RNG gods, but their prayers are not answered, as we see no debuff. That means this Hydro Cannon is going to land for a lot of super effective damage, getting the opponent deep into the red. Are we going to shield this up, or are we going to save it for Venusaur? Romeo opts to shield this up. Can we farm down? It's going to be close. Feraligatr quite literally on 1 HP and a Dream. Able to farm down, leave with the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon isn't going to be lethal, but 1 Vine Whip is going to seal the dub. GG's. Heading into the next battle, we see another Shadow Venusaur mirror. Last time we safe switched into a hard counter Dragonite and we're hard punished. This time we do exactly the same thing. We're not met with anywhere near as hard a counter. Romeo farmed up the Superpower base with the Dragon Claw. The opponent farming up 1 bazillion energy, then plays the CMP tie. They do not win. Shout out Home Size Henry for that quote. Get that Empoleon out of here. The opponent in absolute shambles. Down a Protect Shield and they've lost switch. The opponent does send out Feraligatr. They do get a very nice Shadow Claw farm down. However, we can just enter the mirror. At worst, the opponent has Crunch. The opponent, again, liking to overfarm. Trainer, why do you never throw charge moves? We land the Hydro Cannon. The opponent's already very quickly found themselves into the red. The opponent fire off the first Hydro Cannon. They then bank a move, pivot out into Venusaur, and we re-enter the mirror. Romeo with 2 Protect Shields, going to shield the first move. I was going to say a smeller bait. The opponent pretty much has no choice but to try and bait or do something, as they are so far behind. Romeo full sends the Sludge Bomb. The opponent invests that Protect Shield. Ruffian Romeo knows he does survive 1 Sludge Bomb. The opponent this time does full send. We withstand the damage, return fire with our own Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb secures the knockout with 1 more residual Vine Whip. Back out comes Feraligatr. We could just shield this move up. We could let it go. Either way, Romeo sitting good here. We send out Gator, get the Shadow Claw farm down, and we're able to take that game. In the next battle, we see Venusaur into Como-O. Not a particularly good matchup, so again, we're going to utilise the Feraligatr safe switch. The opponent fires off the Dragon Claw, looking to do some chip damage. Ruffian Romeo looking to keep Gator healthy. We farm up well past the potential Ice Beam. The opponent switches out into Jellicent, and Jellicent is instantly greeted with a Crunch. Crunch forces the Protect Shield. I'd never recommend shielding the first move. That has the potential to debuff, as if we would have got it, this second Crunch would have done even more damage. The opponent opts to insta throw a Surf. Trainer, that isn't the play. Surf doesn't knock out. The opponent looks for the Hex farm down. Feraligatr just refusing to die. This thing is so good this season. Holy. We managed to flip switch. Are we going to send out Dragonite here? We wait out our clock. No, we actually send back out Venusaur. Romeo making a hard team call, and what a call it is. That call might win Romeo this battle. If we would have opted to realign, Venusaur would have been stuck against Skeledirge, which of course is a dreadful matchup. Romeo not going to quite be able to reach the double Dragon Claw. Although this Dragon Claw should force the final Protect Shield, which it does. Unfortunately, Dragonite about to get vanquished back to his Pokeball. With the disarming voice, it's now all down to Venusaur. Romeo sends in Venusaur. We throw 4 Vine Whips and the Frenzy Plant, which will mean the second Incinerate isn't going to register. Frenzy Plant, even resisted, does secure the knockout. Back out comes Como-O. Again, the opponent throws instantly, using a 3-turn move. It really isn't that difficult into a 2-turn move, just throwing odd numbers. The opponent's poor fast move timing is going to cost them this game, and Romeo is going to clutch up the big 5-0. Pulling off back-to-back 5-0s. Well, actually, 3 consecutive 5-0s with a beautiful 15-0 win streak. Huge shout out to Ruffian Romeo, a very entertaining, very talented battler. He also makes content. Make sure you go check him out. His link down below. So if you're enjoying my content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, a link to a battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thank you to everyone for watching. And I'll see you all in the next one.